Welcome to another episode of DVTV, bringing you the next wave of digital video. I'm your host, Tony Rowley, and today we're going to talk about LED lighting. Now, years ago, those that are familiar with LED, there's two major problems that we ran into. Either LED was really expensive or LED was not very good. So you had like a lot of green cast from LEDs, didn't have a lot of punch, stuff like that. In the meantime, LEDs have really progressed rapidly, and for me personally, I've transitioned them to be one of the major tools in my light kit. I went from having just a couple LEDs a few years ago to now really some of the main lights I use on a regular basis are LEDs. And I want to show you the kit that I use because there's a wide variety in things that may potentially be beneficial for your shoots. First, starting off, we have our traditional 1x1 LED. With this one here, this is these are all ICANN lights, by the way. This one is their they're lightweight and high output LED. So these actually pretty darn bright. They crank out a ton of light, and this is actually dimmed all the way down. Well, that's 78%, I should say. So here you can adjust the color temperature. These are bicolor, and you can actually see the exact readout right on the light, which is pretty handy. You can see the exact. So what's nice for that is if I want to dim the light to say 50%, I can see it on the dial, but I can really see it exactly. I can even use these to go up and down for more precision. But for me personally, I would never go back to single color LEDs. I prefer bicolor a lot for two reasons. One light becomes two lights by having the daylight bulbs in it. But the other thing about it is if I'm shooting in a daylight scenario and I say, you know what, I want a little warmth. I'm like Shane Hurlbut, he always says he loves people to look jaundiced. You know, I like to add a little bit of warmth in there, so I can dial in how much tungsten I want. And that is incredibly handy because you don't have to deal with CTO, gels, quarter, eighth, whatever. You can kind of just dial in what you want to taste. Another side of that too is if you're shooting in a daylight scenario, so you're indoors in a bar or something like that, the general rule of thumb is you want warmth leads and coolness retracts. So if you want to add, say you're lighting a background and you want to just add a little coolness to that background, again, go all the way to 3200 and then you just dial in some daylight, and now your background, because it's a little cooler, is just going to retract, and then you can keep your talent in a nice warm tungsten light. So having that dial ability is just incredibly handy. Now, these are all point source LEDs, and that can cause issues with multi-shadows, and that's something that I still run into. A lot of times I'll clip on, these got some nice clips here, I'll clip on just like some ripstop nylon you can get on eBay, dirt cheap, and that'll create more of a softbox. They do make like Chimera softboxes, those can be a little expensive, but if you want just a really cheap, easy method, like I said, just some ripstop nylon, some diffusion material.
That's ripstop nylon above us, isn't it?
Ripstop nylon, yep. And we use it for, like, this is a full 12 foot by 12 foot silk that we were able to build very, very cheaply, inexpensively, just by getting a couple yards of that stuff, sewing it together, putting some grommets in. It's really inexpensive diffusion material that's very ripstop. Inherent is that it won't, if it starts to rip, it won't continue ripping. Parachute material, so really easy to use. Now, they've got different sizes of these LEDs. So this one here is the 576 LED. This one is 1024, about half the size. This is really, really nice for sticking as a hair light if you need to have something lighter weight to boom out over the top or to hide in different locations. So I've got three of these 1x1s. I got one of these little guys, and you can see I've got some diffusion material in front of it that cuts down on the output, but it does help with some of that multi-shadow issue that you run into. So now let's move on to one of my favorite LEDs. This one right here. This is their 1500 LED. I call this kind of like a two-bank Kino. It's about the equivalent to that, and it's just awesome because it's a great key light. I'll turn it on again. We can dial it all the way up to crazy bright, and you got your daylight and your tungsten. What I love about this thing is just it's a very when you do it sideways like this, long ways, it's got a really nice broad light source like a Kino bank would. Again, you put some ripstop nylon on there and it'll be even softer instead of all this little point source light. This is a very lightweight light for the size that it is. And so I've stuck this, boomed this over. I'll use it as a really broad hair light. I'll use it as a great key light when I'm running around doing shoots on a regular basis. this thing's just super handy because it's just a great fast key light that we can set up very rapidly if I don't have time to do a bounce light or set up a full softbox or whatever. This is just awesome. So I love this. I have 3 of these as well, and I nickname it my Brute LED when we set up all 3 of these on a header, and we'll shoot it through a 4x4 silk if we need to soften it up more. And that's just obscenely bright, and we've used it right against window daylight coming through. So if I need a really bright light, 3 of these together is really great. But these are also really good for green screens, for you know, if you're lighting a sweep or something like that. These are, again, large broad sources that are color temp dialable. Very, very handy. Now the thing about color temps is that you're losing the output. If I'm dialing this all the way to tungsten, you know, I don't have these bulbs that would be filling in that daylight area. So, you know, if you've got a single light, which is all tungsten or all daylight, it's going to be physically brighter. But for me personally, the amount of convenience that you get from having the ability to dial between it, like we discussed over there, that overtakes the output 100%. So now we talked about these LEDs that are single point sources. There's some new technology that's starting to come out, which are edge lit LEDs. And these guys here, these are the ICANN Piatos. And here, I'll play around with the brightness here. But what's neat about it is the LED is actually embedded right up here, and it edge lights it, you know, kind of similar to like a TV set would be lit. And you get a very smooth, very soft light source all the way right up to it. These are accent lights, so you may not use this as a key light necessarily. You could hide it in awkward positions because of how thin this light is, just incredibly thin. And it is battery powered, so you can pop on, like those use the big V mount, very expensive batteries, but this uses like a small Sony or Canon battery pack. You just pop it on, and now you can have a relatively bright light. Now this isn't as bright as these lights would be. Because of the edge light technology, you're basically shooting through a bunch of diffusion, so they're not quite as bright, but they're crazy soft right all the way up to them. So, you know, you can see that on me. It's a beautiful light, and you get all, they have different sizes. These are just 2 of them. They have like lots of different size options, so they'd be great for like a catch light in the eye. Again, accent lights, yeah, they're good for really good for tabletop. Now these are only daylight option, they're not bicolor, so I would love a bicolor option. But if you do need to gel them, they've got these nice little clips. Here, I'll turn this one off. They've got these little clips here, so you can slide gels in really easily. And they've got 1/4-20 mounts all over the place. So these are made to be rigged in any position you could possibly think of. So these are really cool. The 9-inch one actually has a yoke, so it's a little bit easier to position. The other ones have a little ball mount there. But yeah, these are really, really slick. Now finally, we've been talking about soft lights. They're starting to finally come out with hard light LED sources. And again, they've been, the first generation I've interacted with haven't been the greatest. They had a lot of green cast. If you get, you know, they can be quite expensive, stuff like that. Or they just haven't been super bright. Some of the LEDs have been like maybe 50 or 100 watt, which is bright, but it's not going to compete necessarily with like a 1K or even into an HMI realm. This one is ICANN's, their brightest LED. It's a 350 watt bulb, and I'll turn it on here, and it's going to be super bright. And this is dimmed all the way down. If I dim it all the way up, it's going to start warming up. Now you're going to start seeing like a little bit of a green cast because the LED is just starting to warm up, similar to an HMI. But this light is equivalent to around like a 2K or a 575 HMI, and it's amazing. Now it's got a fan on the back that can be picked up potentially in audio. It's not very loud, but
yeah, I've picked it up before.
Sean has heard it if you get the mic too close or whatever. But it is focusable. If you look at the background there, you know, it's got a Fresnel lens on it, so it's very similar to a Fresnel light that you might see. And it's just an awesome light. And the fact this is daylight balanced again, the fact that I can just grab this light, I can put it on a 1000 watt generator and easily power this in an outdoor shoot. And it's not an HMI. It's not finicky like an HMI can be. So it's just a really, really convenient, and it's dimmable. That's awesome. You know, having a hard light of this size, that's daylight, that's dimmable to that range is just really, really awesome. And the price point isn't horrible. it is an investment. LED is still not the cheapest rod out there, but it's super more efficient and more cost effective than LEDs used to be. So this is a full lineup of the LED lights that I work with. I have other LEDs, different sizes, but these are my professional ones that I go-to. I love them a lot. I still will go back to tungsten. I still work with fluorescent. I still work with a lot of different ones. But LED, because of the quality that they've been able to crank out, because of the convenience factor, they're really becoming our go-to setup, and I'm a really big fan of these. Now you can check out all of these on ICANN Corp's website. I'm a big fan of them, great quality, a lot better than just the cheapos that you would get on eBay. I found personally that these are great CRI, Grid Color Rendition Index, much higher than some of the ones that you start getting that ugly green cast from another time. So I've been very happy with them. I'm very comfortable to go on ICANN's website and just buy an LED if I need it. So thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you later.